All right, Miles, it's time to talk about Raider Nation football for a little bit. The Las Vegas Raiders found themselves in the news this week with huge news at the quarterback position. It's kind of shattering the whole landscape of Raider football and what it means for the future. Could be absolutely massive. I know you got the specifics on the story and sort of how this is all going to hang out going into the offseason next year. It's going to be big changes in Raider Nation. But before I hand it over to you, Miles, we want to hear from you guys in the comment section below. Who do you want to see as a starting quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders in 2023 as you look to turn this around under Josh McDaniels? Let us know who you want to be QB1 next year in the comment section below. But Miles, give us the latest out of Vegas.
Yeah, Nick. So we're here today not to necessarily talk about whether or not it was a good decision to move on from Derek Carr or not, because that remains to be seen. But what we have discovered is an inevitable that they are moving off of Derek Carr. Derek Carr has been shut down for the remaining 2 games of the season, Nick. He has asked permission from the team to move away from all team activities as to not be a distraction. Why would you be a distraction, Nick? Because Derek Carr seems to be a very likable guy. He's got a lot of friends in the locker room, and they're probably upset because he's leaving. He is not going to be on the Las Vegas Raiders anymore. They have decided to stick with Jarrett Stidham for the last 2 games of the season. And going into all this, Nick, it's very interesting because you see some keys here that give you all of this stuff. They don't quite come out and say we're moving on from Derek Carr, but you get stuff like on the injury report. It's like it's not an injury-related thing. It's personal. So obviously you get all of the things, but they haven't quite come out and said one way or the other what it's going to be. So I just want to know, what are your thoughts? What are the positives and negatives of them moving on from Derek Carr?
Yeah, so like you said, we're not going to discuss whether it's a good move moving off Derek Carr or not. Like it's inevitable at this point, it's going to happen. But one thing that's interesting is that if you're going to move off of Derek Carr, now is the time. Obviously, Derek Carr signed a big extension in the offseason, but the Raiders constructed that contract very interestingly in the fact that if they traded Derek Carr this offseason, they would only take about a $5.6 million dead cap hit according to Spot Track. That's very, very small for any veteran quarterback. Obviously, we look at contracts like Deshaun Watson, fully guaranteed. Russell Wilson signed a big deal. Matt Ryan had like $30 million of dead cap against the Falcons. Like usually these dead cap hits when you trade quarterbacks are absolutely massive. Not the case for the Raiders and how they structured Derek Carr's contract. And if they trade him this offseason, they clear up $29 million of cap space going into next year. That's on top of $35 million of cap space they were already projected to have going to 2023. That gives them, if they're able to trade Derek Carr, which I think is what they're angling for, right? They set him out the rest of the year, try and keep him healthy, increase his trade value, all that stuff. Avoided Jimmy G San Francisco situation in the past offseason. The Raiders will have $65 million of free cap space to go after another signal caller next offseason. It seems like if you're going to make this move, now is the absolutely perfect time to do it. And credit to the Raiders for pulling the trigger and making the move at the time that needs to be made.
Yeah, Nick, and going around the league, if you look at the speculation, where a story like this always leads to tons and tons of speculation, there's really no concrete evidence of any moves that they're going to make right now. But I think there's 2 avenues they could go. Obviously, the sexier story that's more mysterious is the potential Tom Brady, Josh McDaniels reunion, but I think also that the Raiders have a good option to pick up that young rookie quarterback, as we talked about. So, I mean, the Raiders have a couple options, I think, depending on where they finish up in the draft. What are some good rookie quarterbacks the Raiders could be looking at, Nick?
Well, so obviously, if CJ Stroud falls to them in the later half of the top 10, which I think is where the Raiders will pick, although we'll see how these last 2 games shake out, would be just an absolute boon. I think he's awesome. Bryce Young from Alabama looks to be number 1. Will Levis from Kentucky has a lot of Josh Allen vibes, but he's a little raw. We'll see where he shakes out. But, it's going to be a long draft process. But I'll have a name I'll throw out at you, right? There's been a lot of potential talk of Aaron Rodgers reuniting with Devontae Adams, whether they go to a different team, Adams leaving the Raiders or Green Bay moving off Aaron Rodgers. Looks like they may try to do that in Green Bay. I think it's a long shot. But what about an interesting Aaron Rodgers to Vegas reuniting between the 2 former teammates? I think it's a long shot, but the Raiders have the capital, the draft capital, and the dollars to make this kind of move happen. The point is the Raiders have like a 3-way go here next offseason to get upgraded, either get younger or get a better veteran at the quarterback position. They have a lot of options right now.
Well, there's a few things that brings up to my head, Nick. Is one, Devontae Adams is probably disgruntled with the Raiders front office right now because Derek
Yeah.
Carr's his friend. That's the reason he came to the team. So one way to keep him would be to bring back another friend he had in Aaron Rodgers. Two, the second point that brings up is this is a move that brings Aaron Rodgers closer to a place that he is sort of calls home. He's been a California guy for a lot of his life. You talked about always wanting to play for the 49ers, and Las Vegas is not too far away from California. Much better weather than in Green Bay in his older years playing in that Las Vegas area stadium. Probably pretty nice for him. So I like that as well. And as you said earlier in the video, they have the cap space to do it. So that's a very interesting move as well. And the Davante Adams, Aaron Rodgers connection could be a little faster starting than, say, like a Tom Brady, Davante Adams type of deal. So that's a very interesting point to bring up. And I really think we should keep an eye on that going forward.